she's 4 years old, but she's about the same age as her oldest.
Very nice. Older? So is it your uncle? Your aunt? Who gets her? Your auntie from your father's side. To who? I think I know who it is. Yeah, it's a cousin's cousin.
Every family has one.
No, Yechil is not as many. Yechil is a pumpkin. He was a quite special person, you know. Okay, well, very lot to do. I've got my brother's making a mitzvah tonight to Shai Mordcha. Yeah, so the sun is starting 8 o'clock.
It's fine because you do it. 12 minutes after. Because they start off with the drop.
It's a lot of washes to tell me. I don't have a smartphone, so it's a struggle with that.
We'll start on time.
Get Sudoku or something.
So we'll start on time.
What? I know, that's right. I thought you should be very observant to notice it's my Shabbos check. No, by Shabbos.
She's missing time.
What time I pocket?
Hold on.
If I came in a white shirt and a suit, in this
Sim today now.
Okay, a sim today, yes.
No, a sim for that. Still 12
Oh,
days.
so
still 2 days.
2 weeks.
2 weeks night.
Okay, come on. Barbecue. Oh, we had a barbecue.
Organize it.
Sure.
Okay. Right, we're getting into it. Very lot. So much to learn. We're up to Mem Aleph Amud Beis, the bottom line. The first sugi is a sugi which we had a few times. Mem Aleph Amud Beis, bottom line. The halacha is that if a person does an aver by mistake, let's say for example he carries on Shabbos by mistake, what does he do? He brings a chatos. We had shittas abiyos which are many times that Tobit va mitzvah does not need to bring a chatos. So for example, if a person thought he's doing a mitzvah, well, Vismila, very good, we had that. And now the Gemara is going to discuss this. The first day is Succa, the person is carrying the Zava minim because he thinks to himself that what? That he needs to take it to learn how to shake it. It says, top from base We're talking about a case where he hasn't yet been Yotza. So therefore he's told with the mitzvah. If he's already been Yotza, and then afterwards he took it out Chayav. Why is he Chayav? Since he's already been Yotza, no, because we're going at the stage when they used to still shake on Shabbos. That was we said. For many years they used to shake on Shabbos. If you've already picked it up, you've already been Yotza. So you've done your mitzvah. So in the mitzvah, and that's not what's distracting you. And therefore, if you're Yotza, you're Chayav Chatos if you carry it on Shabbos. So for example, let's say I did that with him, and afterwards I go to the Rav, I want to ask him, is there Esugim or Huda de Kawan? So according to Rabbi Yisrael, still be Chayav Chatos, because then you've already been Yotza in the mitzvah. But if I haven't yet been Yotza in the mitzvah, I'm going to the Rav to ask him, is there a kosher Esug? I want to know, can I do it? Then it's impossible to ever have a case where you're not being Yotza. The moment you picked it up, not you've already been Yotza. The second you picked it up, even if you're going to the Rav to ask if it's a kosher Esug, but you picked it all up and you're walking through Shus Sarabim. So at the end of the day, the second you picked it up, you've already Yotza. What's the answer?
Hold them together.
Right, that's what they don't hold them together. That's where they're chumrah. You hold them in the wrong direction. So he asks the kasha, why didn't one say like Shai and Ben? They were discussing a situation where a person doesn't have kavanah to be Yotza yet. He's thinking, I'll only be Yotza when I get to the Rav. He teaches me. Says, well, from this sugya is muchach mitzvahs lav tzrichas kavanah, that you do not need to have kavanah before you do a mitzvah. And if the Gemara could not answer like you wanted to say, that we haven't yet had kavanah, because at this stage the Gemara understands there's no such thing as having to have kavanah. No, that's everybody agrees that you don't need some act of the shaking. So that's the word you want to suggest. Okay. Yeah, you're right. The Gemara could have had kavanah to have. My bike is shahafcha, where you turn it upside down. So you're walking to the Rav, and you're walking with it upside down. Since you're walking it upside down, therefore you're not being Yotza. You're carrying it in a bag. Since you're carrying it in a bag, so therefore you're not being yoitza. Like carrying something through something else is already the kicha. It says, no, that's if taken in an honorable way. For example, you take a silk handkerchief to wrap around the minim. Carry a bag, that's still it's not considered, and therefore that's not considered carrying. I saw in the Dush Mishnah Board they discuss if you're carrying it in a silver box. Right. Sorry, again. So what happened? Well, that's a shayla that could call derech bizon. But I said the Gemara gives two answers, and they shouldn't say that they're not arguing with each other. Both answers are true. The halach is like this: if you've already been yoytza the mitzvah of minim, so then you're not towards our mitzvah. If you haven't been yoytza, then you are towards our mitzvah. How is it possible to walk to the wall without minim without being yoytza? Answer: either you're holding it upside down, or you're carrying it through something else. And as we said, that according to the Succa that holds that you need to have kabbon, where you had no kabbon. So Vaishavir goes in quite great length. I'm not going to go through it, but there was two korbanos of birds. There were a number of differences. For example, the chatas if you squeeze the blood on the lower half of the mizbeach. If you sprinkle the blood on the upper half of the mizbeach. Furthermore, if they used to use one corner, it was the corner which was on the right. If they used the corner on the left. And furthermore, there was other differences. For example, when you would cut through, you won't cut through both siman, you would only cut through one siman. But you should cut through two siman. But the biggest difference is that you would actually eat. The kohen would eat it. It's the only case where a kohen would eat something very unique. No. It's the only case where a kohen would eat a shreifa food. Because since in Malika, you would go with the thumb from the back of the neck of the bird, you'd first cut through the spine and then through the simonim. Once cut through the spine, the animal's a treif. So it's the only time when a kohen, personally, Yid is allowed to eat a treif food. So the Maisa, an oilas oif, the kohen didn't eat anything. It is actually treif. Because if his soul eats it, besides being over the issa of eating chatasif, it's also being over on treif. It is treif. It is. But the Maisa, we're talking about a situation where you find a dead bird between where the chatasif and the oilas is, and the kohen goes eating it, thinking that it is a chatasif, but really it's an oilas oif. Would you make him chayav chatas according to Rabbi Yossi? No, why not? Because Torah's a mitzvah. He's trying to do a mitzvah. Very good. And that's exactly what the Gemara says. Oilas oif should have been like a pine between the two birds. You haven't told me anything new. That's why our Mishnah tells us. No. Here now, Mishnah is going to learn how to shake the Abba Minimum. He's actually going to do a mitzvah. Here, he's eating an oilas oif. So you're right that he was trying to do a mitzvah, but he ended up doing something which is never going to be a mitzvah. So therefore, you might have thought, so the chiddush is that even when you're told a mitzvah and you end up doing something which is not a mitzvah, not like over here where you actually attempted to do a mitzvah, you're still mekayem the mitzvah, you're still potter for chatas. If you take a common talmud which hasn't been checked for mumun, and you checked it on Shabbos, chayav chatos, you're chayav chatos, a tzorich talmud acher, and you need another talmud. You need another common talmud because you checked the common talmud which has been checked for mumun, and you're chayav chatos. And the question is, how could you be chayav chatos? L'chayra is talmud v'amitzvah. Why is it talmud v'amitzvah? He's trying to check the common talmud. By the way, Teresa says a very ancient halacha that over here, even if it's clarified that this common talmud did not have any mumun, it was actually blemish-free. Animal for 4 days. If you didn't check the animal and it comes out as unblemished, it's still no good. So this animal is actually a possible animal.
Did he think it been checked? We didn't.
Oh, this is you're touching on the Gemara's answer. Let's just think what it says. You have to exclude that one. So it's my law, and he bought it from the chamber of animals which have been tested, meaning that it's a mistake, which is such a clear thing that is not. It's amazing. Rashi says it's like it's negligence. Rashi says that's exactly what Rashi says. Amazing. It's close to doing it even on purpose. That's right. Like you're doing something when you know it's incorrect, and therefore that's why it's not Thomas mitzvah, and therefore you're not part of practice. Okay, I want to go to the next submission. The halacha is you're not allowed to put a plant into water on Shabbos. Why not allowed to put a plant into water on Shabbos? It's actually a shine in the poskim. The reason, according to many poskim, is a tikkun monah. You're fixing something. Others say it's a turd of zereah. You're not allowed to take a plant which was never in water on Shabbos. Let's say you get a bunch of flowers on Shabbos, right? If there's an Erev, right? So he comes to you on Friday night, put a bunch of flowers. You can't put it into water. If a plant was in water and fell out, you're allowed to put it back into the water that already was, as long as it's all properly developed. Okay, now here we're talking about a woman. She takes the aluminium from her husband and her son, and she puts it back into water on Shabbos, because what the chiddush is, we're going to learn that we're not chiddush here for muktzah. Rabbi Yehuda, that the Shabbos machzir on Shabbos, you can put it back into water. Beyond meisifin, if it already was in water, you can add more water. Ubemoyed machlifin on cholamoyed, you can even swap water and put fresh water which was never there. Rashi adds a very short few words. Let's see the Rashi, 4 last lines of Rashi. Moed machlifin. There's a mitzvah to swap the water in Chol HaMoed, meaning there's a mitzvah to change the water every day on Chol HaMoed. Mishavur mentions this, that especially regarding the arava, that because the arava gets dried very easily, and there's a mitzvah because the fresher it is, the greener it is, the more mahuda it is, and there were those who are machmir to get new aravas every day, and at least if you don't get new aravas every day, then at least you should change the water every day. The Ochnei adds a small point. He says that Rashi was forced to say it's a mitzvah to swap the water, because Rashi understood it can't be the Mishnah is telling you you're allowed to swap water, because what's that having on the Chol HaMoed you shouldn't be allowed to swap the water? It's not Shabbos and Yom Tov. So what's that having that you shouldn't be allowed to? So Rashi was forced to say it doesn't mean you're allowed to swap, but rather it's a mitzvah to swap. Okay, so he changed it. You're not allowed to plant, but here it's just to maintain. I mean, that's the chiddush. You might have thought that is thing. That's a good point. I mean, there is a shtickler chiddush that you might have thought, but nice. The more Kata tells us you're all allowed to water plants which are going to die out. So maybe the Mishnah is just trying to derech agav turns that. Okay. So again, so the child that knows how to shake the avaminim, chayav v'lulav is chayav v'lulav. And a Maisa mentioned once before, the text says he does not need to know how to say hello. It's just enough that he knows how to shake. Says what pshita. Of course, a woman's allowed to touch the avaminim. What's the chiddush? Says since someone's not obligated, maybe she shouldn't take it because it's muktzah. Kamash malon, that it's not muktzah. Since the end of the day, he's got a mitzvah to shake it. It's not muktzah for her. Yeah, but we're talking about Shabbos when they still used to shake avaminim on Shabbos, right? Right. So nowadays we don't shake avaminim. The avaminim is muktzah on Shabbos. He says, interestingly enough, except for the esrog, because the halacha is you're actually allowed to smell the esrog. But nowadays we don't smell the esrog because we're not sure about the bracha. But nevertheless, Rashi writes and others that it seems like that nowadays we're much more careful with our esrog than these days with Shavuot. And nowadays our esrog are muktzah machmas cheson kiss. What? We're not sure whether to make the bracha and this time to prepare. So if it's not Yom Tov, we would say that bracha. Because it's Yom Tov, we're not sure if you should or not. It is interesting. One very good way of telling you like this is, would you? I saw this halach like a smartphone. Your child is scratching. I was actually recently had a smartphone and his child was being difficult. So he put his smartphone in front of the child on the high chair to play with it. I saw the Shvus Yitzchok writes, when the person does such things, that's not muktzah machmas cheson kiss, because that shows that you enjoy it, you like it, you're not like anxious about it. But you would give the child an esrog. with a pretty one.
Muksa and Shos or not?
It is muksa. And esrog is muksa. Halacha l'maisa means which was muksa. Esrogim or muksa on Shabbos. Yes. Right. Oh. Says the big what? Now we're going to have mentioned this once before that regarding a child, every mitzvah, the age of chinuch depends on that particular mitzvah. Like Sifrit Tzas he has to be able to understand the concept of Tzas. And now we're going through all the mitzvahs, many of the mitzvahs, and a lot of the halachas of children. If he knows how to shake chaybelulav, he's chaybelulav. There's atev to wrap himself. The Shem is saying that means he's able to do this ituf aravi, the way the Arabs wrap themselves. That means they wrap themselves. Chayv tzitzis is chayv tzitzis. Lishmu tefillin, to guard tefillin. Rashi over here says he's able to have the intelligence to know not to walk into a bathroom with his tefillin on. With his tefillin. The Ma'aseh Rashi in Bracha says something else. What does Rashi in Bracha say? He has the ability not to be mafiach, not to let off while he's wearing tefillin. The Ma'aseh, so therefore, that's a different age because the mafiach is harder than to guard his tefillin. Obviously, tefillin is father has to tefillin. Yudai ledaber. If he knows how to talk, his father has to teach him Torah and Kriyas Shema Torah. What should he teach him? I once was at a person's house and he was busy going with his like very little boy. Say Torah, Torah, Tziva, Tziva. Why? Why? Because it wasn't the Chabad. Because Torah, Tziva, and I don't know why, but I haven't done it with any of my children. So one answer I have in the back of my mind is I rely on the fact that they do it in school. So this morning I was thinking about this problem. So I said to somebody, it's not such a big problem. I rely on the fact that they'll do it in school and they'll learn to say the Potsi. I haven't done it with my children. So he said to me, how can you do such a thing? At the end of the day, your child only goes to school when he's about, 4 or 5, right? But he learns how to speak at the age of 2 or 3. So there should be a chiva. I've never seen, besides that one time that the sin being done, I have never seen, my father never did it with me as far as I remember at least, the idea of just practicing your child to get used to any of you see it ever being done. Then the first time once he learns to talk, to train him to say the words Torah Tzivon on the Moishe. I haven't seen it being done, but doesn't mean that it's not. Yes, Kriyas, right. Kriyas, I have seen it done. I haven't seen it being done in anything. Okay. We've talked about Kohanim now. He knows how to guard his body from coming tummy. How do you guard your body from coming tummy? Not to go into the house of a dead person, not to touch a dead sheretz, etc. That means even if his body touched truma, you're allowed to eat it. Why? Because he knows how to look after his body. Guarding your hands is much, much harder than guarding your body. And that's only an older stage to guard his hands. Then we could even eat food which his hands touched if it's taught. Now, the halacha is sofik tumah. What's the halacha of sofik tumah? Anybody remember? Oh, it's one of these things which is completely exeris hakosav. It's very hard to remember. Sofik tumah. Let's say you're not sure. Let's say there's a dead shirt. So you're not sure if you touched it or not. So it's just a rabbim. It is tohoy. And it's just a yochid. It is tumah. Where do we know it from? Where do we know this from? From Soita. Isha Soita is a suffix tumah. It's actually kind of achiyashu tamah. Isha Soita is not forbidden to her husband. And she's a suffix tumah because we do not know if she was Mazana. And when she's suffering Mazana, she's a Yochid, suffering Mazana, she's a Rabbi, suffering Mazana, she's a Yochid, because most people Mazana do not do it in a public place. So therefore, we learn that suffix tumah is in Shusay Yochid, the Tomei, suffix tumah, she's a Rabbi, Miss Torah. But we learn one further thing from a Sota. Just like a Sota is a woman, that she has the intelligence and she knows whether she was Mizana or not. Only we don't know if she's telling us the truth, but she knows. So too, Safik Tumah is only Tomei if there's intelligence there. But if there's no intelligence there, meaning it's impossible to find out, then what's the din? It's Toy. Fascinating halacha. If you look at Tosfos, so exactly this. Let's say, for example, a mouse took a slice of bread from my table and walked with it around the room, and next to in my room there's a dead sheretz. I don't know, did the mouse walk over the dead sheretz with a slice of bread or not? Is that slice of bread Tomei or Toy? Toy. Why is it Toy? Because there's no intelligence to ask. If I pick up a piece of bread and I'm not sure, that even though the truth of the matter is I don't know and you can't ask me, but since theoretically I do have the intelligence, therefore it's something to my stomach. But if I'm walking the Shusavavim, I'm not sure if I stepped on the dead shells or not. In every case, it is always Torah. So when a child is capable of being asked and answered the question, it is Safik Tumah, Tomah B'Shusayachid, Torah B'Shusayachid, it's a Tomah B'Shusayachid, Torah B'Shusayachid. If he doesn't have the intelligence, it's always Torah. And that's what the Gemara says. Could ask him, if he knows how to do it, we give him truma in the bonds. Here there's a big machlokes ashetesis. Why exactly do we wait for the ability to duchen to give him truma? Right. So why? Okay, no, you're right. Rashi says basically, like the Rashi says a bit more, and that he's able to guard truma. Once we see that he's capable to do duchening, we see that he's mature. Younger than that, we're concerned that people will think that he's not looking after his truma. And Rashi points out that of course he's allowed to eat truma if he's at home at a younger age, but to give him in the barn, it looks like you don't care about the truma and you just let him in mezazah in it. So to give him in the barn, therefore you can't give it to him. To send it to his own personal house, that's okay. Top him and base him and base. If he knows how to shecht, you can eat from the shechita. As long as there's an adult watching over him. Where Rashi and Tesis both agree to this. We're talking about a child that does not know hilchas shechita, does not know the halachas. What he does know is he knows how to do it. He knows how to do the act without knowing the halachas. Since he knows how to do the act, we can be learning shechita, but you have to have an adult to watch over him to make sure that he didn't do a mistake with halachas. If he's able to eat a kazayis, that's about 25 grams of grain, you have to keep away from his tzoya and his memiraglo 4 amos before you daven or before you say Shema. You can eat it with an amount of time. K'te'achilas is half a meal. A meal is usually 4 eggs. Half a meal is 2 eggs. So we're talking about, a meal is 8 eggs, half a meal is 4 eggs. We're talking about 4 eggs, 2 kazesim. So if you can eat it the amount of the 1/8 of the time of eating it, that is considered k'te'achilas pas. Mishmor says that nowadays it's usually from the age of 1. And it makes no difference as to whether the child eats, for example, let's say you have a child with celiac and doesn't eat any grain. So you say, if that's the case, it's not oich dog, that makes no difference. It has to be the capability to exercise dog. So if you've got a 3-month-old baby, even if he's got a dirty nappy, there's no problem with saying Shema and Shmanesa next to him. But once he's, and that's even if he's eaten the exercise dog, because it's not k'te'achilas pas. But if he's already able to eat k'te'achilas pas exercise dog, then you have to keep away from his soya before you say Shema Tefillah. If it's an adult, even if you can't eat k'te'achilas pas, if you've got an adult who's got a very sensitive stomach and can't eat much bread, since he's an adult, you have to keep away from his soya. If you can eat a gzais of roast meat, what's easier to eat, a gzais of roast meat or gzais of cooked meat? Cooked is softer. Tosis says that. Now, since let's say the bottom, the last is Spirit, those who can eat cooked meat, they can't eat roasted meat. In the roasted meat is much more geschmack, but it's harder to eat. So if you want a child to join the Korban Pesach, he has to be able to eat a kazayis of roast, not of cooked. He has to be able to choose his food. If you give him a nut, he'll eat it. If you give him a stone, he'll throw it away. Such a child, that is a child that you can join in for the Korban Pesach, otherwise you can't. So that is all. That is many of the halachas we learned. Okay, had the halachah magazon, had the halachah magazon, had the halachah magazon. We should learn it again. This one, next one is Shem. We should get to understand it clearer. We should get to learn it tomorrow. And there's a lot of the halachas of a child, of chinuch, each child according to the stage that is up to. Next pair. I want to do at least the mission. We'll stop at that mission. Lulav arov. There's a mitzvah to shake lulav for 7 days for the Mikdash. Our Rava, we're going to learn that there's a special mitzvah to take our Ravas and to put them around the Mizbeach. This mitzvah, unfortunately, is not so well known. We all know about the Shana Rava, banging the Shanas, etc. The mitzvah of leaning our Ravas on the side of the Mizbeach also. And then this occurred all 7 days, every one of the 7 days of Sukkot. But sometimes it was only for 6 days. Why would that be? If Shabbos now. If Shabbos was first day Sukkot, we would push away the mitzvah of Shabbos to shake the lulav. If Shabbos was on the Shana Rabbah, we'll explain it more much later why they would do it, but it would push away the mitzvah of Shabbos for the Shana Rabbah. But if Shabbos would fall on any other day of Sukkot, let's say the third day of Sukkot was a Shabbos, so you would shake lulav the first day, the second day, but the third day is not the first day anymore, and it's Shabbos, so you wouldn't shake that. You shouldn't shake the lulav. Or if a Shana Rabbah was a Shabbos, so then how many days would you do the Shanas? 7. Very good. If a Shana Rabbah was a Shabbos, you would put the Avavas on his Deach for 7 days. If a Shana Rabbah, for example, was a Thursday, so then the second day Sukkot was a Shabbos, and then the halacha is that day you can't do the Shabbos. So the shaking of the lulav and putting the Avavas on his Deach could either be for 7 days or for 6 days, depending if the first day or the 7th day was a Shabbos. A halal, the mitzvah is saying halal, v'asimcha mitzvah to be happy, shmoina, was for all 8 days. Rashi brings the Gemara, and Erechin asks the question, why is it that the mitzvah of Sukkot is to finish the halal all 8 days, and in Pesach we don't finish the halal all 8 days, 7 days? Because the Kabbalahs would change on Sukkot. Since the Kabbalahs on Sukkot would change every day, so every day was a different kind of Yom Tov. So therefore, that's why on Sukkot every day you have to say a whole halal. Actually, Pesach the same column every day. Koela Tasulevu. So every day there was the tune of the Koela. What?
So you're in the Mitzrayim growing.
That's not why we do say halal on Sunday. That's not what the Gemara says in Erechin. But Simcha, the mitzvah to be happy. How are you happy? Bosso, Rashi says, Bosso Shlami, meat. So you have to have meat all 8 days of Sukkot. We've discussed this many times before, that you should every single day of Chol HaMoed have a kezayis of meat and at least 1 cup of wine. If you want to be Yotze or Shittas, at least. Sukkah, mitzvah of Sukkah. V'nisach hamayim, they would pour water on the Mizbeach. When would they pour water on the Mizbeach? Sukkot, but which time of day? Very good. The Korban Tamid of the morning one, not the afternoon one. During the Korban Tamid of the morning one, they would pour water on the Mizbeach. Shiva, that was 7 days, makes no difference when Shabbos is. Hacholim, that is the flute, Chamisha v'Shisha, was either 5 or 6 days. I'll try and explain the cheshbon. The flute was the musical accompaniment which they used to use when they would draw water, and that was the Smichas Sheva. That did not push away not Shabbos and not Yom Tov. Even though they drew water and they would do everything, they would do the mitzvah every day, but they wouldn't. It was getting water on Shabbos before Shabbos, but they wouldn't do the music on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So if the first day Sukkot was the Shabbos, so then what happens is you've got Yom Tov and Shabbos on the first day. So the other 6 days of Sukkot, you've got 6 days worth of Smichas Sheva. But if the first day of Sukkot is not a Shabbos, so the first day of Sukkot you didn't have the music. Why? Because it's Yom Tov. And then another one of those next 6 days would be a Shabbos. So 2 days you'd have no music. So how many days left would be for the music? 5. Lulav Shiva Ketzad. That Mishnah just explains exactly what we just explained in great detail. How would you have Lulav for 7 days? Ketzad. Yom Tov Shabbos. The first day Sukkot is a Shabbos. Lulav Shiva. If Shabbos would fall on any other day of Sukkot, Shisha, then you'd only take the Avavim for 6 days. Avava Shiva Ketzad. Yom HaShvi Shel Avava, the 7th day of Avava, which is the Shana Rabbah Shcholis Shabbos. Avava Shiva. The Shakul Yomim Shisha means the Avava would push away Shabbos only on the Shana Rabbah, not on the other 6 days. Mrs. Lulav Ketzad the Shabbos. How would they do it on Shabbos? Yom Tov Chag Shcholis Shabbos V'Lichines Uleven Harabais. They would go on Erev Shabbos and take the lulav onto the Harabais. The Chazonim, that's the Gaboim. Why would Chazonim called Gaboim? Very good. And the word Chazon comes from Chazon Yeshayo, the vision. They were the ones that used to oversee. The Kavli was sitting next to Gabi Itztaba. They would put it on like a bench. There was a bench going all the way around the Harabais, and they would set it up there. But as a kid, the older ones who were scared of being trampled would put it in the chamber. They would teach everybody to say, anybody who gets my lulav should get as a matana. The mocha next day, Mashkim boy, would come early and come. The chazonim, the guy boy, zoiknes and if they would throw it in front of them to catch it because we see the people coming. They would grab and maknishes and they would hit each other. Every person would take it at home, and then they would stop taking it, even the Beis Hamikdash. They wouldn't take it to the Beis Hamikdash on Shabbos. They would take the Minim only at home on Shabbos. This is not the takana of Rabba which we're going to learn about Rabba, that you're not allowed to shake lulav on Shabbos because you might come to carry it. This is a different takana. The original takana was they would shake it all 7 days in Beis Hamikdash. Then they changed it that when Shabbos is Sukkos, you don't shake it inside Beis Hamikdash because it's too crowded and too much grabbing. But rather, you take it at home. There's a very, very famous Lomdish Machlokas between the Rosh and the Ktsois of all people. And that is a question in Lomdish is as follows. That the halacha is that in order for lulav to be yours, to be yotze, you have to have it to be yours. So for example, if I say that I'm giving you the car, only that you can drive it, but it's still my car, the halacha is that car, you've got kinyan peirus and not kinyan aguf. The halacha legabe arba minim is that kinyan peirus, that kinyan aguf does not work. The machlekes Rosh and the Ktsois is, if you do a matana lizman, but matana gemura, does it work or not? It's a very interesting machlekes, where basically what happens is, if I say to you, I'm giving it to you, that it should be yours only for 10 minutes and no longer. And after 10 minutes, it's no longer yours. You don't need to give it back to me. Just yours for 10 minutes and that's it. Is that good enough to be Yotze Arba Minim? Anybody got a proof one way or another?
You heard it yesterday. The day before, when it said that you could give it.
That was Matan Nostachsi. That everybody agrees it's okay. Because there, I give it to you as a gift on condition that later you'll give it back to me as a gift. That's a separate question. That everybody agrees with.
To you, 10 minutes, that's tonight. But it doesn't mean that I can actually.
No, Matan Nostachsi says, I give it to you forever. I'm giving it to you without a limit in time, but with a condition. The condition is that you will then give it back to me as a gift. Here, I'm giving it to you as a proper gift, but with a limited amount of time. This is a very long shashayla. Can you have such thing? We had the Gemara, they shouldn't give it to your child because it can be kohen and not makna. If you could do such a thing, then you'd have a social. Okay, Mazel Tov, anyone finish the parak. Tomorrow, with Hashem, will start from the Gemara, which will discuss the halachas of shaking lulav on Shabbos. Okay, that's